Welcome to Coaching Conversations with Margo Myers. This podcast is produced by Shipley Coaching, where discovery inspires growth.
Hi, I'm Margo Myers, an executive and performance coach who coaches people on leadership, communication, and career success. And I'm thrilled to be bringing you this new podcast. We are talking everything coaching. And today I'm joined by Tony Husted. He is Shipley Coaching Director of Training, ACTP author, coach mentor, and performance modeling expert. Tony, thanks for being with me today. I appreciate your time.
Good to be here.
So today we want to talk about coaching and different types of coaching engagements, especially if you are, for both individuals and for organizations, looking at internal coaching, external coaching, individual, team, group coaching, all the different types of coaching that are available to people. And sometimes it can frankly be a little overwhelming and a little bit confusing because of the terms. And sometimes people use those terms interchangeably, but they actually mean different things. So let's start with internal coaching. And if you can talk a little bit about what that looks like if someone is an internal coach or someone wants to bring an internal coach into an organization.
Well, Margo, the most common way that internal coaches work is that somebody who's already inside of an organization would take a coach training program and then transition out of their normal role to the role of coach or some type of pseudo coach role where they sort of step out of their managerial role or out of their HR role or whatever it is that they're doing in that organization, and they put on a coach hat. And that's the normal way. There are other ways internal coaches work, but that's the most common way, is that somebody inside the organization steps up and their role transitions from whatever it is currently to that primarily of coach. And that is a common piece. There are many big companies that I've been part of that have rolled out internal coaching programs. About 3 to 5 years ago, I was involved with a major program, a major software development company. They trained 500 coaches within their organization, and they pulled that together into an internal coaching program so that everyone at that company should have access to a coach. Now, the downside of the internal coach, and this is one that I think sometimes gets overlooked, and it's just something to take into account. The challenge of an internal coach is that they're inside the organization. They're part of the corporate culture. They've grown up in that organization, if you want to think of that metaphorically. They are often, they're in that role. They think the way that organization thinks. And for them, it can be really challenging to bring a real innovative and creative mindset to it because they're biased by being part of the internal organization. Now, of course, the other challenge of that can be, since they're inside the organization, somewhere there's somebody that they report to. Somewhere there's somebody that's going to be writing their performance evaluation review. Sooner or later, they're going to be working for a different person or working under a different person that's part of the organization. So there can be some biases. There can be some places where the organizational structure might limit them just a little bit because they have to still come up in that organization. Maybe want to get promoted into other leadership positions down the line. And so they have to navigate the political climate of that organization to stay in the good graces of people within the company. Whereas,
well, they're part of the system.
Exactly.
They're coaching within that system. And there could be some limiting biases being part of that system, right? Because you start to think, as you said, you're part of that culture.
Yeah, Margo, and you know I've worked a lot, and I know you have as well, as an external coach being brought into a company. And I can tell you that in my experience, the single most common compliment that I get when I've worked as an embedded coach or as an external coach, embedded coach being somebody who's there more than just during the coaching session. I actually am part of the team. I go to the team meetings. I go to all of the things that are going on with the team. I watch them perform regularly. One of the biggest benefits is that I'm not part of the system. I come from the outside, therefore I have the external viewpoint. I don't ever buy into the organizational beliefs and limiting factors, that really common saying, oh, well, this is how we've always done it. Most people buy that and just, oh, yep, that's right. That's how we've always done it. As an external coach, I immediately want to go, hold on. Why have we always done it that way? Why wouldn't you do it differently? How would you do it differently? And I immediately go at those assumptions that often get in the way of the internal coach. And I'm not saying all. Internal coaching still has a great value, but an external coach, they're like a wild card. They come in from the side and they're not bound by the organization. They don't report to anybody in the organization. So I can take the kid gloves off and get really serious with people, really challenge some of the basic assumptions that are being made. And that brings a totally different perspective and value to an organization, because you're not trapped in any shape or form by the corporate structure, by those assumptions, by those beliefs, and you can bring a different flavor. Is that what you found, Margo, as you've worked as an embedded coach and on a team who has their way of doing things?
I always like to say I'm Swiss. I'm the neutral party who comes in, and I'm not trying to get promoted within their system. You really can take, a neutral view, because you can ask those questions without fear of losing out on a promotion, or fear of how that's going to impact the relationship with your boss, or whatever it is, because you can challenge those assumptions. You can work within the system and ask, well, why is it this way? And how might you change that? And what are some other options that you could pursue? So absolutely, as an external coach, I find a greater amount of latitude in how you can actually work with a team or individuals. So let's talk a little bit about external coaches. I mean, in my experience, I'm most often brought in by a company to work with individuals. On occasion, I've been brought in to work with a group or a team, but mostly that is more around workshops and facilitation. So most of my coaching has been being brought in by a company to work with individuals in a particular niche. Let's define the difference between team and group coaching, because sometimes those people use them interchangeably, but they're not the same thing, are they?
Absolutely not. And yes, definitely people use these interchangeably. I hear it quite a mix of the definitions. In my book, and I think what is the industry standard, and I believe this is fully in line with the International Coach Federation's definitions of, I don't know if they actually have an official stance on it, but this is what I see the most common is. So if I'm coaching an individual, let's start there. It's a one-on-one conversation. It's me and that person, either in person or over the phone. There's nobody else there. There's nobody else observing. It's in a confidential space, according to what fits in the law. We're not doctors and lawyers. So there are limits of the law of what is confidential, but we're talking very, very extremes here before confidentiality becomes an issue there in that. But when it comes to group and team, this is where it really varies. So team coaching generally is working with a group of people, a collection of people who work together towards a common goal. So it's a project team. It is a creative team. It's an HR team. It's a sales team, where they are all working together collaboratively, directly with each other. And team coaching in that avenue, according to that description, would be all of those people, or a majority of those people, in the room at one time. And it becomes a facilitation of the individuals as a collective unit. So I facilitate a coaching conversation, but the team becomes the individual. Rather than it's just me coaching you, Margo, and me interacting one-on-one with you, Margo becomes the team. So there might be 12 personalities in the room, and I'm coaching the same way that I would an individual, but the team is the individual. So I get multiple perspectives from the team, but the team is one. And again, the key essential piece here is they're all working towards the same goal, and they are interdependent on each other of achieving that goal. Now that's different than group coaching. And group coaching is where I would be coaching multiple people with something in common. The coaching is going to have a common point that we're going to coach on, but I'm not coaching them collectively. I coach them one-on-one individually, but in a group setting. So I may have 7 salespeople that I'm coaching. They don't work on the same sales team. They all may work for the same company. They all may sell a similar product or the same product, but they're not in direct competition or not in daily working with each other. So I then coach them one-on-one individually. So this week I coach Mary, next week I coach Joe, the following week I coach Mike, but everybody is present and everybody observes the coaching. So there's a value that's created in hearing other people coaching on the same topic that is important to you, but we don't necessarily have to work together in that collaborative environment. Does that distinction ring true for you, Margo?
I would agree with that. And I think, there's advantages to both. And the beauty of group coaching, especially in the way you're describing it, it's like you can, maybe you're a little bit shy and you don't want to bring up a particular topic. And once again, if you're doing group coaching, what is said in the room stays in the room, right? But you can go to school on somebody else's experience, if you will, as they're being coached. And then oftentimes I find other people in the group will also have another perspective that they can bring in and add. Even though they're not coaches, sometimes they might raise an important point or perspective or add a slightly different dimension that just brings into the entire group and that they can learn from that experience as well.
Absolutely. I've been part of group coaching before as a participant, as a coachee, and it was really interesting because there were avenues that opened up. You don't know what you don't know, and there were avenues that opened up. I remember one, and this was a simple one, but somebody else was getting coached. It was when I was first starting my coaching business back almost 16 years ago, and somebody in the group had an idea that I had never been exposed to, had never thought of, and there was software at the time that really helped me do it quite well. And it really accelerated me, whereas if it had just been me and my coach, my coach hadn't been familiar with this software and this idea, this concept of how to market that way, I probably never would have come to it. I never probably would have found it. Maybe I would have, but there's a real value to it. And I know for myself, when I am facilitating group coaching, which is one of my favorite things to do, is to find a group of people who are really passionate about growing in a specific area and then really delving into that topic from multiple perspectives with multiple coachees. What I find is that there's a little bit of a masterminding component. So I may coach Joe today through on this certain topic in real estate sales, for example, and on the other end, on the back of that topic, I put out to the group, does anybody have anything they would like to mastermind and add to this coaching session? And there's almost always some nugget or tidbit, a different perspective, or even a question that somebody else in the group that just heard the coaching can ask a question, throw in a resource, share a book, share a quote that accelerates it, that promotes it, that creates this really powerful dynamic. And then also what I found as both a coach and a coachee in group coaching is it builds a little mini community. And then there's a lot of resource sharing within that. There's a lot of side conversations that aren't necessarily part of the coaching in the formal aspect, but they build friendships, they build camaraderie, they build that, oh yeah, I faced that too. And so it really supports people differently individually, because they're working with other people that are in a similar boat, they're in similar shoes, they're going down a similar path, but each person's working on their own thing. And flipping it back to team for a moment, that's very different than the team, because that team finds new ways that they're working together collectively towards the goal. So team coaching often accelerates the team's achievements collaboratively, whereas group coaching, it accelerates each individual's results. But because they're not a team, they're not formally working together, it's accelerating them all in the same direction collectively, but they're each still on their own individual performance. So those are some of the distinctions between team and group coaching. And again, other people might use those differently than I do. But that is the distinction, as I understand, is sort of the industry standard and how I would define it. And in the future, Shipley Coaching will be offering both programs on how to facilitate team coaching and how to collect and drive group coachings as well.
I think that's an excellent way to look at it, Tony, where team coaching, actually you're working with the entire team and accelerating the individuals that are part of the team. It becomes larger than just the individual parts, right? The team as a collective just propels forward that much faster, I think, with the team coaching. And the group coaching, I kind of liken it to back when I was part of a coaching supervision, where there was a group of coaches that we were being coached by a master certified coach, an MCC. So I'm going to take a quick aside here. The International Coach Federation, which is the governing body for coaches, they have different levels of credentials. A master certified coach being the highest level, where you have 2,500 coaching hours and above, and you've demonstrated mastery of the core competencies for coaching and have the highest integrity. And then the next level down is a professional certified coach, a PCC, where you have in excess of 500 hours of coaching. That's where I am right now. And then you have the first level of credential, which is an associate certified coach, where you have 100 hours of coaching. And again, in all of those, you are holding yourself to the highest standards and showing that you have great understanding of the core competencies that are built into this. So with that being said, we were being supervised by a master coach, but the rest of the group of coaches, we learned so much from each other just in our way of handling a situation. And you could come in and say, I look at that just a little bit differently, and have you considered this? Or what about this aspect? And we would get off and explore different areas, and it just made the coaching that much richer. And I love the sharing of resources too. That is one of my all-time favorites, is just getting the different exposure to books and articles and different resources, because I think most coaches, we're all lifelong learners, and we love to explore, right? And so we're passionate about our topics, and I know that I've gotten great resources from you, Tony, and hopefully I've shared a couple of things with you as well, because it's always learning. We're always learning to keep ahead of our clients.
Well, Margo, there's an interesting piece there, and actually, it's one of my favorite things. And I get it as a coach, as an individual coach, as a group coach, as a team coach. But I also know that in team coaching, it happens to the coachees. And for sure, it happens in the group coaching, as you've just described it. And I refer to it as being borrowed benefits. So as a coach myself, and actually my MCC is pending. I have over 3,000 hours of coaching in the books. plus 200 plus coach training hours in the books as well. But one of the greatest benefits of being a coach is what I call borrowed benefit. When my clients, individual, team, or group, when they have an aha moment, when they have a breakthrough, when they come to something really great, there's almost always something that I get personally back from it. I've learned so much from my hundreds of clients that I've coached. I get something almost every coaching session. I get some little nugget. I get some little aha back. And that's one of the things that group coaching often is used for coaches. So if you're a coach listening to this, think about running group coaching, because group coaching is a great doorway for individual coaching because of the borrowed benefit. You hear someone else being coached, and maybe that person's a little more outgoing, that person's a little more outspoken, and they have sort of an aha moment and you get a little borrowed benefit. Then that often feeds to the one-on-one coaching, because the coachees see the benefits, and it's not, the barrier to entry for group coaching financially usually is a lot lower than one-on-one coaching. Group coaching tends to cost less than one-on-one coaching. So a lot of coaches run group coaching as a doorway to individual coaching. So people aren't quite sure, I'm not sure if coaching's for me. Hey, try one of my groups. And they get in, they get comfortable, they get a lot of borrowed benefit. And so then they jump into one-on-one coaching. And that also is true with team coaching. I find actually that most of the time when I do team coaching, I end up coaching the team leader or the manager, whatever the role is. Whoever is the senior person on the team, I almost always end up coaching them one-on-one. And sometimes even if they're a really strong personality, I end up doing my team coaching with them out of the room. They're not allowed to be for the team coaching because they tend to jump in and override the conversation. So I coach the team separately from the manager, which can really create a lot of power as well. That's kind of getting advanced and getting into some different areas, but there's a lot of different avenues, a lot of different ways to work with those people and to suit the needs of the people of what they are needing. And so individual, team, and group, it can all be weaved together inside of an organization, outside of an organization, independently. It all just depends on how the coach is wanting to work to fit who it is that they are wanting to serve and what that group or team or individual is trying to achieve.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you, Tony. And I'm so excited. Thank you for joining me today. And I hope people who are listening have a greater understanding of internal versus external coaching and individual team and group coaching and the benefits of all the different avenues of coaching that you can pursue. So we hope you'll join us for the next episode of Coaching Conversations with Margo Myers. And don't forget to check out the Shipley Coaching website at shipleycoaching.com. That's where you can find articles, links to podcasts, and learn about our programs, including our ICF-accredited coaching certification course. You can also learn how to become an affiliate of our leadership engagement course. We're here to share discovery that inspires growth.